Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark, 12 tracks, 58 minutes, the ninth studio from the UK metal band, released May 1992 by EMI and Epic, produced by Martin Birch and Steve Harris, recorded at Barnyard Studios in Essex. 3 singles were released: Be Quick or Be Dead, From Here to Eternity, and Wasting Love. The album peaked at number 1 in the UK, number 12 in the US, number 11 here in Australia, going gold in Canada, France and the UK. This is the band's first studio double LP. This will be the band's final work with Martin Birch, who retired after this, was complete, and would also be their last with Bruce Dickinson until 1999.
Yeah. Cool. Early 90s, and metal was at its commercial peak, and so many bands were releasing landmark albums. This would be Iron Maiden at their most accessible, but I don't think it's a landmark album. To me, there is a lot of filler on this one. They do kick off with the 1-2 punch of the classic sounding Maiden tracks like Be Quick or Be Dead and Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be.
What?
Yeah.
No, From Here to Eternity.
Well, you listen to AC/DC?
Yeah. That's what I get for reviewing these from memory. Yeah. It was
professional, folks.
Yeah. From Here to Eternity. Those 2 tracks.
Aren't you glad for technology now, Dave?
Fucking yeah.
Wikipedia save us.
Okay, so Be
That's
Quick
a
and Be
worry.
Dead and
That's a
From Here to
big
Eternity.
worry if Wikipedia
They
is
are a great opening double 2. More, they're better than the previous album.
Back in Black?
Yeah. I do think Bruce shines the most in this album with the ballads, Afraid to Shoot Strangers and Wasting Love. It's a bit of a different sound for Maiden, and they pull it off really well. Of course, there's the title track, which goes down as one of the best Maiden songs ever, and it is amazing live. But the tracks that I mentioned are probably the best ones on the album. Everything else is sadly unremarkable and is really easy to overlook. At this point in their career, with the constant record tour cycle, it seems like they're starting to get really tired. But when it's good, it's good. When it's not so good, it's not that good. Overall, 7 out of 10, and my standouts were Be Quick or Be Dead, Afraid to Shoot Strangers, Wasting Love, and Fear of the Dark.
Oh, there you go. For me, this was a huge improvement over No Prayer for the Dying, but that's not really saying that much, given how bad that album was. Maiden's songwriting...
We haven't even hit Blaze Bailey yet.
We'll get there. So Maiden's songwriting as a whole was now a better level than obviously that album, and it produced some several good songs on this. It's odd since there were no major lineup changes between this and the album before, but it sounds like a completely different band.
I just feel that Yannick got a chance to settle in.
I think so, yeah. He was probably rushed in for No Proof of Dying. And, yeah.
He gets to actually add his flavour to it more. I think when he went in there on the previous record, probably mostly written before he got in there.
Yeah.
And now this one, he gets a chance to add something to it. That's
exactly. And if you see them live play any of the songs off Fear of the Dark, I wouldn't say he's the centerpiece, but he's a pretty focal of it as well. So yeah, but probably did have a lot to do with it. Still, as is becoming common with the theme of these Iron Maiden albums, some good, some bad, very inconsistent is what we've been pointing out through a lot of these. We'll start with the negative first. So there were 12 songs, which made it a pretty long listen to start off with, which I wouldn't normally like, because I'm like Dave, man, I love my progressive metal and Dream Theaters and all these bands as well. But for Iron Maiden, 12 songs at that time was just a bit too much, and there wasn't enough of the quality here, the cohesion for me. Especially the back end of the album. The tracks I got listed, Chains of Misery, The Apparition, and Weekend Warrior. They just really dragged an album that was kind of struggling at that stage, already a bit down, and just made it a bit more of a burden to listen to than what a Maiden album normally is. If this album had been cut down to 8 great songs and maybe one more great song, made it like a 9-track album, it would have been much better. And I think it would have flowed better as well. But overall, look, there are some great songs on this album, to the point where No Prayer for the Dying is almost, but not quite, forgiven. So look, Be Quick or Be Dead. I remember I listened to this for the first time.
What's it going to take to get over Blaze Bailey this way?
Well, Be Quick or Be Dead, when I first listened to that, I remember I saw the film clip first. And that's another fine opener from the Irons. And this is, for me, at that time, one of their most hard-hitting songs. This came out at 92, and the first thing that I realised was how much the song, and Bruce especially, reminded me so much of bloody Painkiller from Judas Priest from 2 years earlier.
Okay.
Because obviously, and everyone knows Painkiller did big things for Judas Priest and stuff, and I think really trying to channel a bit of Judas Priest and metal got in there, but it was just a similarity for me, maybe not so much in the vocals, but definitely the music and the structure of it, which I liked. Childhood's End, that's just a solid track on this album. The lyrics are pretty cool, they really hit home, and I just love that song. And also, but for me, the main centerpiece is Fear of the Dark. I mean, to this day, that is probably one of my most favourite Maiden songs. And for good reason.
Always in the live set.
Yeah, it's a staple, hardly moves.
Yep.
And that's for good reason, man. It creates, It's an awesome atmosphere, great intro riff, just that 3 or 4 guitar solos in it, and just the way it kind of rounds back to itself throughout the song.
Yep.
Love it. More of that.
Amazing for the orchestra and the free guitar lineup now. I keep going back to that, man. Fuck.
About three guitarists wearing
Bloody here we go. Love the set list written by the end of this.
So
full fucking selling pitch point.
So look, it's just it stood the test of time, that one song. Having listened to this quite a few times preparing for these reviews, my overall impression is that Fear the Dark, it's an awfully inconsistent album overall, if you take it as a whole. Has a few killers, some decent songs, and some songs are boring as hell on this. Also, the continuity isn't there for me. It starts off with a great song, Be Quick or Be Dead. Then it goes into, sorry Dave, I've got to say because I've got it written down.
Hello, bad place to be.
An AC/DC sounding song, which is probably the from. And then it goes into one of the better tracks towards the end, Fear of the Dark. So it kind of just ebbs and flows all over the place and just doesn't grab me. Normally I find myself switching off towards the end of albums. This one I was switching off like just after the start, in the middle. And it was just, it's just, the flow wasn't there for me. Overall, I think the band tried to do too many things on this album. And while some individual songs are great, I think they just threw everything at the wall and saw what stuck. Standout tracks for me, Fear of the Dark, Be Quick or Be Dead, Childhood's End, From Here to Eternity, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. And I'm giving this a solid 7 out of 10.
Okay. First time I saw Maiden was on the Fear of the Dark tour. So
I was there.
92, 93, wherever it was.
Festival Hall, wasn't it? Festival Hall,
but Yannick Gers on top of the bloody amp stacks and all that kind of stuff. And it was great.
Sadly, he didn't fall
What
down.
I do remember for the time, though, is I remember they played too many songs off this album. I wasn't a huge fan of it at the time. It's not their finest work, but Jesus, bookended beautifully. Like, Be Quick or Be Dead is a belter, and Fear of the Dark is an all-time Maiden classic.
Yeah.
It was interesting when I saw them when they did the Somewhere Back in Time tour, which was essentially a live after death rehash.
Yeah.
They actually put Fear of the Dark in that set.
Yeah.
So that's how much I think of an important Maiden song it is that it made it into that set list.
It's almost like their soccer chant song. Like that's,
Yeah.
it's their
That's their crowd participation song.
Yeah, that one and Heaven Can Wait as well.
Heaven Can Wait, that's where they got everyone's up on stage,
interesting one. But look, it's a good album. It's not a great album, and I think largely, like you said, should have been trimmed back. There's probably 3 songs in there that just don't quite belong. I even find they go for too many 3.5 minute songs. It's almost like everyone sort of call it Black Album disease. And trying to...
Or AC/DC disease.
And trying to do these sort of concise songs because they might be a bit more user-friendly. But, I think they wasted a bit of space on this one. But generally speaking, it's still pretty solid. I'll give it 7 out of 10. But Quick or Be Dead, From Here to Eternity, Childhood End as well, which I love, and Fear of the Dark, of course, which is just a classic.
Yeah. Well, this has better production after the upgrade to the barn was had behind the scenes. There's more polish applied, much better blending and balancing of all the tones, and there really are some beautiful sounds captured on this record. It's all nicely captured and nicely layered. The way they have had things coming in and fading away at different times adds to the songs nicely. Some of the flash is back compared to the previous record as well. A little more dare, less straight ahead than the previous release. Not their finest writing, but this is much more in line with what their earlier works are like. So they've gotten away from the whole trying to get back to the street, and now they've gone back to more of what Iron Maiden have become known for by this point in time. And that's a nice development. Nothing overbearing. It's cool. Like the Middle Eastern flavours they start to bring in on this release are really cool. And that I love how that gets to permeate through from this point forward. Nothing big. It's just little note choices here and there and little progressions. Again, there are flat spots on this one, though. The raw energy they had earlier on their career isn't with them on this record. And while this is a warmer record overall than their last one, it's a little bottom-heavy for me compared to their previous works on the whole. Still better than the last album. It seems to suit their sound more in this one. And Bruce has again gone for a less powerful approach, less epic in the vocals. More street-level still, which is a little bit of a downer for me at this point in time, because I want to hear Bruce be Bruce. I don't want to hear Bruce be Di'Anno. Yeah. And that's what I think. It's a weird comparison, I guess, to make, but that's what it feels like to me. The lyrics are good overall. There's some nice hooks and melody at points. What I will say is they've got that aspect of adding accents with tiny little guitar tracks and stuff here and there. They've done that for certain emphasis, and they've nailed it. That's done really well. And the backing vocals, again, play into that. And they always can play, that's never a doubt. I think you miss Adrian Smith less on this record than on the previous one. Yannick is bringing more of himself, and you can see why they got him to begin with on this record more than the last one.
He gets unfairly slapped around.
He does.
He's the Tommy Thayer.
He is. He's the wooden boy, and it's not fair because he actually brings something to this band.
Yeah,
I think in a lot of respects he kind of kept them going for a while as well. Yeah. We'll see that coming up later on. There's some interesting experimentation going on in the writing of this. It doesn't quite come up, but other parts are pretty good. Weekend Warrior is a good example of what works for me, while Wasting Love not so much. So we've gone on complete opposites with some of our thoughts here. And we've all discussed at AC/DC, there is an AC/DC vibe in this time. There are some nice solos, some good... some of the syncopation on that, though, was a bit generic, I felt. But the album close is nothing short of fantastic. And I like the darkness that's been introduced on this record. That's pretty cool. All in all, it's better than the last one, but not as good as their previous heights. It's actually better than I remembered when I go back to it now. And you can see why this ended up polling so well with the audience. A lot of people love this album a lot. Certainly worth having. It won't grab you as much as the previous releases, but it's still a good album to put on from time to time. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Fear of the Dark, Fear is the Key, Childhood's End, Judas Been My Guide, and Weekend Warrior. I actually picked that one. I thought it was a really cool track. Now, someone disagrees with me, but check it out for yourselves and let us know what you think.